Hello. Today on a very special episode of V-Gaming. I know I haven't done the weekly one. I'll do that at some point. It's already Wednesday. On a very special episode of V-Gaming with me, your boy, The Saverings. This video kind of dropped out of nowhere today. I saw this over on VG Fight School's Discord. I came in, I looked, and I've watched this video once before. As you can see, it's already been moved a little bit. But we're going to watch this from the beginning together. Y'all ready? Are y'all ready for this? I don't know if I can even get away with singing that song right now. Sorry if I'm stuffy. Allergies are like destroying me right now. But let's watch this together, shall we? Let me know how it sounds. Let me know what's up with the volume. See, desktop audio. I didn't test this at all. Let's see.
At Xbox, our vision is for you to play the games you want with the people you want, anywhere you want. That's why we're
Sara Bond,
investing in our next generation hardware lineup across console, handheld, PC, cloud, and accessories.
Oh.
I am thrilled to share we've established a strategic multi-year partnership with AMD to co-engineer silicon across a portfolio of devices, including...
Across a portfolio of devices. You guys hear that? So not just the Rogue Ally Xbox, but probably the current one, right?
Our next generation Xbox consoles.
Next generation consoles, okay.
And in your hands. Together with AMD, we are advancing the state of art in gaming silicon to deliver the next generation of graphics innovation to unlock a deeper level of visual quality and immersive gameplay and player experiences enhanced with the power of AI, all while maintaining compatibility with your existing library of Xbox games.
All with Wait, what'd she say? What was the exact words? I don't want to misquote her.
Compatibility with your existing player experiences, enhanced with the power of AI, all while maintaining compatibility with your existing library of Xbox games.
All while maintaining compatibility with your existing library of Xbox games. That is music to my ears. Because, okay, there's been several paradigm shifts in video game technology. If we're going to go with home video game technology, let's start with that. The first big breakthrough was just modernizing and shrinking down a computer to be a home console. So you got your Magnavox Odysseys, you got your Pong machines, you got your Atari 2600s. Those are the granddaddies, right? Came and went. We all know about the big crash back in 1983. Nintendo came out with their format in 86 and kind of 85, 86 and kind of revitalized everything. And you've had everything since then. So to me, that original push with the Magnavox Odyssey, Pong, and all that stuff, Atari at the very beginning. Then you had, we won't even get to the PC side. We're just talking console side. But this also kind of affects all of it, but specifically we're talking about consoles. The next big leap, I feel, was not so much the 16-bit era, because that was just the technology improving. The next big leap was CD technology, in my opinion. More storage. Could have full motion videos, full music, voiceovers, all that kind of stuff on your game, right? The next big leap after that was online. I would like to say pioneered by the Dreamcast, but technically that was pioneered back on the Sega. Remember the Sega channel, that little modem that they had for the Dreamcast and Mega Drive? But it didn't really become a practical thing until I'd probably say the Dreamcast. And then you had the original Xbox, which had the Ethernet port built in, and then you had the hard drive Ethernet add-on for the PlayStation 2. And the GameCube also had one too. I remember people were playing Phantasy Star Online and stuff over that. Blu-ray, I don't really consider that a big one because that's just a bigger CD. I will give Sony props for making the PS3, at least at launch, a Linux-compatible PC. That was pretty huge. But the next biggest jump, and HD happened in there too, but HD is just an update to your television, right? To your display. That's not really so much a video game thing. That's more of a separate thing with displays. That was a big leap. HD era was a big leap. I want to acknowledge it, but I'm talking consoles themselves. To me, the single biggest leap ever in consoles was the last generation. The move over to x86 technology, basically more or less off-the-shelf AMD PC parts that can run Linux and that can run Windows. That's made porting of the games. That means development of the games. That means all that shit all works relatively straightforward. That's when you start to see gaming explode, because you can make a PlayStation game and with a few tweaks, it could be an Xbox game. With a few tweaks, it's a PC game. With a few tweaks, it's a Switch game. With a few tweaks, it's a cloud streaming game. because they all, underneath it all, have to run on some form of x86, some form of Linux, or some form of Windows. So when you narrow down the lowest common denominator, you can make the most things, versus how it used to be. Like the Xbox had PowerPC over here, and the GameCube had ATI graphics, and the PlayStation had the cell processor, and all these different technologies that weren't really compatible. And say you were making a game to come out on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360, that was two completely separate builds of the game, because one had to run on the tri-core PowerPC, whatever that was in, and the IBM PowerPC APU and processor that was in the 360, and then on the PlayStation it had to run on that cell processor with that custom NVIDIA graphics core. But now he has 4 to X Bone. If you look at their specs, they're pretty much identical. The only difference is the PS4 had unified faster RAM, and that was about it. The processor was a little bit faster, the graphics were a little bit faster, but other than that, they were pretty much identical on paper. And then if you look at the consoles now, the Series S, the Series X, the PS5, the PS5 Pro, pretty much identical. The Steam Deck is the little baby brother of what's in those consoles. Pretty much identical. The only thing that's still kind of an odd duck is the Switch, but that doesn't take very much. The Switch and the Switch 2, but that doesn't take very much to get it over working on NVIDIA, to get it over working on, what is that, an ARM processor that they have in there. It doesn't take too much. It's not an impossible leap compared to the situation I described with 360. But what they're doing with these consoles is, it's pretty much just going to be the next evolution of the AMD APU. Very common in devices like the Steam Deck, very common in devices like my WinMax GPD, which has an AMD APU in it. You know, very common to what's in the Steam Deck, like I said. Very common to what's in the Rogue Ally already, things of that nature. So, backwards compatibility should just be a thing. And also, as we'll find out, we'll keep playing.
Games. This is all about building you a gaming platform that's always with you, so you can play the games you want across devices anywhere you want, delivering you an Xbox experience
Keep going.
not
My
locked
son
to a
has
single
direct
store or tied to one device.
Not on a
That's
single
why we're
store.
working closely with the
What's your system?
delivering you
Listen.
an Xbox experience not locked to a single store or tied to one device.
Not locked to a single store. Do you guys hear that? So on your Xbox, you won't just be playing games from the Xbox store. You'll have the option to play them from other stores. What other stores could they possibly be talking about?
That's why we're working closely with the Windows team to ensure that Windows is the #1 platform for gaming.
And for those
The
on
next
PC, or for those on PlayStation, and for those that aren't even in the race and you're wondering why this is a big deal, she just mentioned they're working with the Windows team. What they push on here, the gaming part they push on here, will eventually trickle down and will affect the main branch of Windows. Full disclaimer, I've worked for Microsoft several times. My last position was with Microsoft. Guess what I tested there? I'm out of NDA, and I'm not going to say anything too crazy either. I tested games on Surface devices, which are very much related to an Xbox, which are very much related to a Steam Deck, because a lot of those had AMD APUs in them. Some also had Intel with Intel Xe graphics in them. Things like I tested gaming performance and compatibility for the Microsoft Surface team for 5 years. So I kind of have an idea of how these things work, at least internally. Before that, I worked for Microsoft Game Studios. Before that, I worked for Warner Brothers Games. I've shipped games on the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation 3, the 360, the PC. I do have some experience working on games and working on game performance and tuning and optimization and things of that nature, just as a full disclaimer. So working with the Windows team, I also worked on hardware compatibility. So I tested graphics cards on different builds of Windows in a lab condition. I tested it for both internally at Microsoft on campus and for a third-party vendor off campus in another lab. This was years and years ago I did that. This is for Windows 7, actually. So basically, yeah, get ready to play your Steam games. I cannot wait for them to roll this out, because I have a feeling they're going to roll this out retroactively, both on PC, Windows 10 and Windows 11, but they're also going to roll it out retroactively on systems like this bad boy right here. They're going to roll out whatever they're cooking on this bad boy right here. And I cannot wait for gamers to install the Steam version of games on here and prove how well this thing can run things. And we can finally shut that argument up and shut up all those developers and shut up all those ponies that know nothing about hardware. All those ponies, monkeys planning a moon landing. And by that I mean, it's funny how Xbox players do it too, but I don't hear it as much. It's funny how PlayStation players want to come and talk your ear off about hardware every time Sony wants to unveil some new hardware, but don't know jack squat, trying to tell you the PlayStation Pro is the same as a 4090 or a 4070. No APU will ever be anywhere close to any point that a dedicated desktop discrete graphics card will ever be. Ever. Dedicated discrete graphic GPUs will have to go away for APUs to start being king of the hill in anything. So to hear them talk about that, I call it monkeys planning a moon landing. You get a troop of monkeys together. It's kind of like the monkeys with a typewriter. If you put 1,000 monkeys on 1,000 typewriters for 1,000 years, eventually they'll write a Shakespeare play. Just randomly. Just statistically, they'll actually write something good. Same thing with my frame. If you take a troop of monkeys and they all look up at the moon, some of them can visualize that that's a place. That's a place that someone could go to. You could stand on that. That's someplace far away. That's not just a dot in the sky. That's an actual place. But they'll never get there. They can never conceptualize going to space and building a rocket ship and a spacesuit and going and landing on the moon and having a little monkey control room talking to Houston, we have landed and all that stuff. They can never do it. To me, that's what console fanboys sound like talking about PC hardware and performance. Y'all sound like monkeys planning a moon landing. You could see it. You can visualize it. You might even be able to describe it. You could contextualize you being and doing the thing, but you can never describe it in any relative detail. Most of you. So, if they pull this off, this might be the biggest shift in mainstream gaming ever. Ever. If you can make a mainstream console run on a more or less native PC operating system, which the Xboxes already do run on, but that UI you get is just like the front of it. It's a DOS shell. Who remembers DOS shell? I do. It's a shell. It's Windows. Windows is just DOS with a UI over the top of it, so you don't have to see the DOS part of it, but it's still DOS underneath. If they could pull this off and make a console that leverages the power of Windows in a basic thing and lets you run things like Steam and .io and the Epic Game Store and Roblox natively. Forget the Roblox app on Xbox. You can run Roblox natively on this thing. That is a wrap. As long as they don't get greedy, as long as they don't half-ass it, and as long as they don't get greedy and try to overcharge for this thing. That is a wrap. If their Series S version of this next one, they sell it for like $400, that's a wrap. That is an absolute wrap. You'll basically have a pretty decent little gaming computer and an Xbox console together in one package for $400 with Game Pass on it if you want. That's a wrap. I would love to see Sony's response to any of this. But anyway, we're going to let Sara Bond finish talking. We're going to rewind it too. Go ahead, Sarah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, girl. Here.
That's why we're working closely with the Windows team to ensure that Windows is the #1 platform for gaming. The next generation of Xbox is coming to life, and this is just
to make sure that Windows is the #1 platform for gaming. You notice she didn't say Xbox, right? To make sure Xbox is the #1. She said Windows. So they're counting MAUs. They ain't counting console sales. They counting Windows users on Xbox, Windows users on PC, and what you say, silicone across a family of compatible devices. So not only stuff that they make, but that means this version of Windows is going to run on my GPD I just held up. There might even be a version you can dual boot into on your Steam Deck, or on your Rogue Ally, on your whatever you have. Hell, on your tablet. Can you imagine that Xbox version of Windows booting up on your Samsung tablet? You know how sick that would be? But anyway, this is really exciting news. I just hope they don't screw up. I'm actually pulling for Microsoft on this one.
Closely with the Windows team to ensure that Windows is the #1 platform for gaming.
Windows, not Xbox.
The next generation of Xbox is coming to life, and this is just the beginning. We can't
I thought Xbox was dead, though.
wait to show you what's next.
Thank you, Sarah. That's pretty cool. So, I just thought I'd dig in and share that. What do you guys think about this? Are you still on that fence talking about Xbox is dead? Are you excited for this? Do you see the potential in this? It's still a console. I'm sure they'll still have just a regular UI that you're used to. You don't have to touch any of the Windows stuff. There might be like a Steam app that lets you install Steam on there. There might be like a Epic Game Store app that lets you install that on there. There might be a .io app. For you guys and gals that don't know what .io is, ask your little cousin, ask your little brother or sister, ask your kids what that is. There's more people playing them .io games than you recognize. I have children, and when they were younger, I built them gaming PCs. We had a 360. Later on, we had a Series S. We had a Wii with a virtual console on there. Later on, we had a PS5, which is sitting right here. Steam Decks, all this stuff. Let me tell you, before Roblox and Fortnite really blew up, and they still do play these games, there's these .io games, these web games. Those kids were playing that more than they were playing Minecraft or anything else. Slither.io, a bunch of stuff. Slither is the one I remember because it's the snakes, and you try to like wrap around each other, and when you kill the other person, you eat the little pellets they drop, and it makes your snake get bigger until you're this giant snake that circles the whole game board, and then you win. You're like the big snake. But yeah, all that kind of stuff. If they can put .io on there, and people are wondering how they're going to make their money. It's Windows. Since when have you ever been concerned with how Windows makes money? How did Microsoft get as big as they are in the first place? Was it Windows? Well, actually, it was DOS at first. It wasn't Windows until the 90s. But Windows. Don't worry about how a $3 trillion company is going to make money. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. You think they're doing this knowing that they're going to lose money? It's Windows. And fun fact, if you look at their earnings by department, it goes all their cloud and Azure services. And then it goes, what was number 2? Oh, Office, all their Office products. Tied for third is gaming and Windows. Do you see why those two divisions are working together? Because they're pretty much neck and neck. And if they can help each other, boost each other up, that's literally what you call corporate synergy. The Xbox exists to make Windows more valuable. That's where the X in Xbox comes from. I think I did another video on this. You guys can go down and find it if you want. But basically, DirectX is their 3D graphics API for Windows. It's how Windows translates information coming from whatever source to render 3D things in 3D on a Windows platform. Hence the Xbox. It's a box that sells DirectX, therefore making Windows more valuable. Also, I like to point out, and VG Fight School pointed this out, and this is something that I used to know inside and out and that I took for granted, and he had to remind me in one of his videos. Video games, before they were called video games, were called computer games. All the early gaming magazines was called something computer gaming. All of them. Whether you were talking about arcades, whether you were talking about Atari. Actually, the Atari said video computer system on it. The VCS. The Atari VCS. The video computer system. Yeah. So for them to take a console and make it more like a computer is where consoles started. It wasn't until the Nintendo came out where they started talking about entertainment. The Nintendo Entertainment Center system. But that was only over here. What do they call the NES everywhere else? The Famicom. What's the Famicom short for? Family Computer. So all you guys flipping out, they're going to turn it into a PC. Consoles always were PCs. It wasn't until the 90s when they started calling them consoles. It wasn't. I was there. They were called home computer systems or home gaming systems. Consoles wasn't even in there. That's my gaming system over there. Oh, you have an Atari. Oh, you have a Nintendo. It wasn't until probably like the 2000s when they started calling them consoles. Yeah. Actually, no, I take that back. Because 1991, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Genesis, those were called the console wars. So I take that back. So it was as early as like the early 90s. But I digress. But let me know what you guys think. Are you excited for this? Is this a big fat nothing burger for most of you? Are you guys gaming on PCs and don't really care? Well, you should, because it's going to affect your Windows and make your Windows maybe not suck as much for gaming. And maybe have a cool little mode, like a Windows big screen mode, like SteamOS. That'd be pretty cool. I would love to see people install Steam on their Series S and run games on there, because I thought the Series S was too weak and it was the bottleneck, even though they still make games for the base Xbox One and the PS4. But the Series S is the bottleneck. Anyway, we're going on 20 minutes here. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. Y'all have a good one. Be easy. Peace out.